her story about a holiday prank. Welcome to the stage, Julie Walker.
You know, you never live down that one meal that's just awful? Apparently. I've made many terrible things. Before I start my story, I just want to say thanks so much for coming out tonight. It means a whole lot that there's so many people here and that you've made time in this busy holiday time to come be with us and hear some stories. So just, I'm all warm and fuzzy inside, so I decided to share that with you. So my story started out with a question, and the question was, so you know sign language, right? This was a question that was asked to me by my father-in-law, Mike Walker. We were at the Walker family Christmas, which was going to a dinner theater, and he found out that I knew sign language. And that was the night that I found out that he's kind of a prankster. Now, getting in with your extended family is not the easiest thing, always. I don't know about anybody else, but sometimes it can be difficult to get in with your in-laws. Because you're so nervous. You're like, okay, I'm meeting everybody. This is gonna be my family for the rest of my life. Don't mess this one up, Julie. Okay. Because I don't know about anybody, but I don't always give off the best first impression. It's a thing, it's a gift, really. I like to think of it as a gift. So when he approached me and asked if I knew sign language and asked if I wanted to prank the extended family at the Walker family Christmas, I said, absolutely, yes. Will you be my daddy-in-law? You know, like I am all about trying to get in the good juju here because I don't want to mess this up. Now, family is huge for me. I mean, I love my family dearly. I love Ben's family dearly, my partner's family very dearly. I love my kids dearly. There's nothing better than sitting around with your family, eating some food, talking some crap, watching some football, just doing what your family does. I love that. So I really wanted to make sure that when I met the extended Walker side of the family, that I would do it right. And it seemed like the best way to do that by lying to them. So that's what we decided I was going to do. What Ben's dad was approaching me to do, what he was asking me to do, was pretend that I was deaf the first hour of the Walker extended family time. Now, it seemed like a really good idea before we started that. At that point, I had had a semester or two of sign language, so I could say, you know, hi, my name is Julie. It's nice to meet you. But I didn't really think about how conversations go beyond that when you're talking to people for more than, you know, a minute. And it's different when you're saying that to your sign language instructor and they're like, no, Julie, this does not mean the same thing as this. Very different words in sign language. So I was realizing, we were driving up to the Walker extended family Christmas, and I realized I was pretty ill prepared for this prank. And there's all these holes that started getting poked in it. Ben doesn't know sign language, so how do we communicate? What if someone there knows sign language and they can find me out? I mean, we planned for some of the holes. We told Grandma Walker beforehand, Grandma Cleta, told her beforehand, Julie's not actually deaf, but she's going to pretend she's deaf. Because Mike had the sense of mind to make sure that I didn't kill his mother on Christmas. Didn't think a heart attack for Grandma when the deaf girl starts talking. Being a Christmas miracle would necessarily be the best thing. So, Grandma knew, but other than that, we really hadn't planned this out. So I'm walking in behind all the Walker clans. I got Mom and Dad Walker in the front, I got sisters and brother-in-laws, and Ben's in front of me, and I'm in the back. And I walk in the door, and they're like, hi, you must be Julie. I'm like, and they're like, why didn't you tell me she was deaf? I could have prepared for this. And it was harder than I thought it was going to be because I could hear what was going on around me, but I had to pretend like I couldn't. So when I had people in the back, it would have been really helpful if she would have, if they would have told me she was deaf, or Ben's aunt pulling him aside and saying, so so I didn't know that you knew sign language. And he says, oh, I don't. Well, how do you communicate with her? He's like, well, it's mostly a physical thing. You want to run that one by me before you say that to your in-laws, your family rather? So it's going okay, right? People kind of just ignore me because it's okay. And there's a couple of people that are like, you know, they're talking to the side like, oh, okay, what's that thing we learned in school? It's like A, B, C. No, we'll just write her a note. It's okay. Okay. Like, you're trying to remember. So I'm kind of just sitting there in the middle of things trying to pretend like I can't hear what's going on, even though I totally can. Ben's passing me notes. I'm passing him notes. And there's this little boy, Tyler, that's there. He's this nephew that somebody's trying to adopt. And he comes up to me. He's really chubby little boy. Just like chunk. Like his thighs are the size of my, that's not a bicep really, is it? But whatever this is, that's like this chunky little man in his little sweatsuit. He kind of waddles up to me. And he said, you know, he's looking at me and I'm looking at him. You know, I'll be like, you say hi to a kid, 'cause that's all you can do, and I'm not talking or anything. And he looks at me really quizzically. Like, why are you not talking? What is going on here? But something about that made him trust me. So he starts looking up, and like we're playing, and I'm playing catch with him, and all the family around me starts to buzz a little bit. Like, wow, he doesn't connect with people like that. That's so cool. That, you know, I bet you it's the deaf thing. I bet you there's just something about it that I'm like, oh, this is gonna end bad. This is not gonna be good. Okay, you know, and like Grandma Cleta's like making eye contact with me throughout this whole thing, like, I know you can talk, I know you can hear. You know, it's great, you know. So it comes to be dinner time, and there's all this big spread of food, and it's not the food that I'm used to because it's not my family, but it's food that I'm getting used to. I mean, it's all your usual suspects. It's your all rotten potatoes, it's your ham, it's, I guess I blocked some of the other stuff out of my mind. I can't remember the food. I mean, the food is such a big part of the holidays, right? I mean, like, it's what you do. You eat, and you talk to people, and you watch football. So we see the food come out, and Ben, you know, writes to me, do you want me to get you a plate? And I said, sure. He said, you know, he writes down what you want, and I'm like, anything. Because at this point, I'm starting to get really nervous, because it's been about an hour. I've related with this little Tyler kid, and I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. So I might just have to be the person who signs for the rest of my life with the Walker extended family, because I don't know what to do to get out of this prank, right? So Ben goes and gets me a plate of food. He puts it down, and he gives me a note that says, start talking, which is not the most opportune time to start talking, because what are you going to be doing? You're taking bites of things, right? Which, I don't know, maybe the Walkers do more of that talking with your mouth full thing, but in my family, you get your hand smacked for that, right? Like, that's not what you do. So, I take a bite, I'm like, wow, these potatoes are really good. I'm eating, and nobody responds. I'm like, oh no. I don't know what's gonna happen here. So I'm trying to think of a bite, like, oh, this is really, are these au gratin potatoes? Is that, yes, these are au gratin. Okay, so it's not baked potatoes. These are, in fact, au gratin, like, I don't know what to small talk to make. Everybody's busy eating.
Yes.
I'm just supposed to be, and so, like, I keep trying to think of things to say, but there's just nothing to say at this point in the day. And I'm kind of talking, and I'm starting to see people, like, giving each other sideways looks, and and I'm still trying to talk and find things to say, but I'm not finding enough to say, and I'm kind of looking at each other, and looking at me a little bit side-eyed, and I'm like, oh no, now I'm the weird girl that just wanted to prove how much sign language I know for an hour, and so I'm pretentious, and I've just got all these, like, terrible scenarios. Like, they're not gonna let me marry me. Like, they're just gonna kick me out. I won't be able to go to the family events anymore. It's pretty bad. And thankfully, Uncle Joe walks by. Uncle Joe is the youngest brother, which means he's the biggest troublemaker, but he never got into trouble for it. So he walks by, and I'm saying something to Ben, and he's like, he walks into the other room, and he says, is she talking? Is she talking in there? And then it was fine. And then it was okay, because Joe made it a big deal, and Joe made it a big joke. And so I owe the fact that I am in with the Walker clan to Uncle Joe and making sure that, my prank actually happened. So in the end, I got to be a part of the family. I'm still part of the family, obviously. My last name is Walker. Put that one together. I got in there, so that's good. And my prank didn't get me kicked out. Grandma's doing just fine, and all that. And what it came down to was they were very forgiving of the fact that I lied to them for over an hour. And you know what? That is what sounds like family.